Hi everyone. So today I want to talk about something that was published about a week ago, and it is ObesetoBeast, the YouTuber, talking about his changes in his political and I think to some extent also his religious beliefs. And this was something that I thought would be a good thing for me to review because so far what I've talked about on this channel has been either weight loss or changing beliefs. And Obese to Beast is generally a weight loss YouTuber, but here he's talking about his beliefs changing, and I thought it would be good to talk about that and discuss what I think of his beliefs changing and what I think of how my beliefs have changed in similar ways. So to start off with, I'm going to share the main clip from his video, the main clips of how he has changed his beliefs as he recorded the changes on Instagram, I believe, and talk about that.
So, it says right here, in this past year and a half, my political views and views in general have changed quite a bit. I used to be a pretty standard Christian conservative guy. It's supposed to say liked. I don't still like these people. But it's supposed to say I really liked Ben Shapiro and Jordan Peterson. I remember thinking Steven Crowder was kind of cringy, but still funny. I share this mainly to say people do change. No, I do not believe all conservatives are bad people, and I certainly do not believe I know what is best in all areas. I remember thinking all trans people have mental issues, or gay people shouldn't get married because they will make pastors marry them. I remember thinking all of my beliefs were actually kind, because what I was trying to do was share my beliefs because I didn't want others to go to hell. I really thought I was doing the right thing. I'm sharing my story to tell you that people really can change. Just because someone thinks something now, that does not mean they will always think that. I'm thankful I had the time and space to make that change myself. And then I went on to write in the caption, said, I know this will probably make people upset or cause people to call me a soy boy, an SJW, or that I am virtue signaling. All of these things were correct. And that's okay. I'm not posting this for points. I just wanted to share my experience for those of you that can relate. Will people unfollow me because I shouldn't get political? I'm sure. Another question, and so I brought this up because whenever I talk about not being like really right-wing, I get messages on my Instagram telling me, well, you're actually not really a Christian because you don't believe XYZ thing, okay? So that's why I even brought up religion really for the most part. So I said, another question I will get is, are you a Christian anymore? And my answer is, honestly, I don't know. This was really hard for me to write. So, I don't feel comfortable and do not want to associate with a lot of what has come from the Christian church. I do believe in God. I didn't capitalize it. Someone was upset with me with that. Dude, I'm just bad at typing, okay? Everyone thought so much into this stuff. And I do believe in Christ, which I did capitalize, but I don't think he would be happy with how those who claim to follow in his footsteps are acting. I don't hate Christians, not even a little bit. I just don't like those who use the Bible as a way to justify cruel treatment of others. I was like, wow, this is so much deeper than I meant it to be, but it is something I have held in for a while now. If you are conservative and feel attacked, that is not my intention. I am just trying to be true to myself and share my genuine feelings and experiences.
So he touched on a lot of stuff there that I want to get into later in the video, but I do want to say now, because he doesn't really bring this up again, that I, as currently considering myself an agnostic and not a Christian, consider him a Christian just because he believes in Christ, and I consider that to be the only criteria. But I also can sort of understand why he doesn't want to associate with the word. I myself have issues with associating with the word atheist, even though I meet the criteria for that depending on how you define the criteria. So I can understand not wanting to necessarily associate with a word, even if it does technically describe your beliefs. So the next thing that ObesetoBeast goes over in his video is how he started believing one thing and went to the other thing, how he sort of got to point A in the first place, and then how he went from point A to point B.
My mom, when I was really young, she was a drug addict. She ended up getting clean at a Christian rehabilitation center. And after a while, we got put back with her. So we were taken away from her for a while from CPS, and then we were put back with my mom because she was clean. And the reason she was clean was because she went to a Christian rehabilitation center, okay? I bring that up because that definitely molded my mind and molded how I looked at the world as I was younger, as I was growing up. So, growing up, I remember just kind of agreeing with whatever my pastors were saying. I remember one thing that was a really big deal, so I live in San Diego. It was a really big deal when I think I was in high school, junior high and high school. I don't remember exactly what year it was. But it was like Proposition 8. This was a huge thing about like gay marriage. And I remember thinking, I remember a lot of our pastors would give these sermons about the reason that they don't agree with Proposition 8 is because they are afraid that they will have to marry gay couples. And if they say no, they will be forced to by the government, right? If they don't do it, they'll lose their license. That was like a huge thing. And I remember thinking, oh yeah, that makes sense. Like they shouldn't have to do that. So that was like a big, my faith was a big reason why I felt like I agreed with a lot of, I guess, conservative talking points.
I would definitely say that I had a similar experience to him in a lot of ways. When I was growing up, my church influenced how I saw absolutely everything. And it was my community, and it was heavily integrated into my family life. And so I definitely based a lot of my political beliefs on what I was taught in church. And at the time, I didn't see that as a bad thing because, of course, I thought that my church was the one true church. But now looking back on it, I definitely think differently than I did then.
So that is when I found, I don't remember what year it was, but the way that I kind of started getting down, like, called the alt-right, or like started really having some kind of crazy thoughts, was when the first person that kind of got me down that pipeline, it's called like the alt-right pipeline, was I found Jordan Peterson. And now a lot of people, when you bring him up, they're like, he's not alt-right, blah, blah, blah. I'm not saying that he is, but I'm just saying watching his videos and the content that he makes led me down this rabbit hole, for lack of a better term, okay?
So this is something that I find really interesting because I listened to Jordan Peterson a lot in the past as well. And when I was listening to him, one thing that he would say is that the alt-right did not like him because he did not support a lot of the things that they supported. However, I found that when I listened to him, I would be connected to other videos where they would talk about him, and the thing that they were upset about him with was that he was not um, anti-Jewish or something like that. But those videos were still popping up in my recommendations because I was watching Jordan Peterson videos. So somehow there was a connection there that YouTube was making, and I don't know that Jordan Peterson is aware of that, but it was there.
So I end up watching some Jordan Peterson stuff. I end up reading his book. Most of it, I'm going to be honest, I tried to read the whole thing, but I just couldn't. I was like, I don't know what he's talking about anymore. But I was like, I really liked what he was saying. He's like, yeah, personal responsibility, take care of yourself, don't worry about what others say. Like, it's all about you. You have to pull yourself up by your bootstraps, which I was like, yeah, dude, I agree with that. I lost 180 pounds. I changed my entire life. And it's all because of me. I remember thinking that, right?
I don't know that I ever got the message that my past successes were all about me necessarily from Jordan Peterson, but I was in a different position than ObesetoBeast, I think, at the time that I watched Jordan Peterson videos a lot. So maybe that's why. I don't know.
So then, through watching Jordan Peterson, I found Ben Shapiro. I started really enjoying watching his basically SJW-owned clips.
See, that's interesting to me because for me, it was actually Ben Shapiro was on the chain that led me to Jordan Peterson as opposed to the other way around, like it was for him. And I never really liked the SJW owned clips that much, mostly because they would often have destroyed in the title, and that's something that kind of bothered me. I didn't really like having those videos come up in my recommendation feed because that just wasn't something that I particularly liked. So I guess that's just a different kind of taste, but obviously I was different in that way from most of the Ben Shapiro fans because I would keep getting those as recommendations, and that would really annoy me.
And then I started watching like Steven Crowder. I remember always kind of thinking he was a little cringy, but I would still be like, oh, I like to watch the Change My Mind segments because he always owns these college kids. Like, they don't know what they're talking about.
I think I developed mixed feelings about Steven Crowder pretty quickly myself because one of the things that people on the right side of YouTube always complain about are people like the Young Turks, because they say that they really misrepresent the other side. And I kind of felt like Steven Crowder did that when it came to the other side, for his, he just happened to be on the right. And so I felt like he was kind of similar to the Young Turks in that way, and that kind of ticked me off.
And he's like, the facts and the logic and everything that he's saying. I just remember thinking, like, this line of thinking, it doesn't worry about the feelings of other people. It's like, what are the facts? And I remember thinking, yeah, man, I'm in with that. Like, when it comes to the left, all they care about is feelings. They don't care about facts at all. And, you know, it might not be popular, but this is what you need to do, okay?
I think that there is definitely a perception on the right that that's what's going on. But I think that what people on the right don't realize is that a lot of the thinking on the right for a lot of the people on the right isn't motivated entirely by facts. It's motivated by their feelings about religion specifically. And because if your religion is telling you what the facts are, but the way you feel like you know those facts is through your feelings, well, then you're still ultimately acting based on feelings. And that's kind of how I feel about the difference between the right and the left. I do feel like a lot of what people feel on the left and what people think on the left is based on their feelings, but I feel like on the right it is too, and people just don't realize that that's what's going on.
The first video that actually had me start looking at things a little bit differently was a video this is why I wanted to do this. It was very similar to what I'm doing now. It was a content creator. He's a streamer on YouTube. He goes by the name of Xanderhall. And he made this video, which I will show you guys right now. So he made this video that is called How I Fell Down the Alt-Right Pipeline and Escaped.
I have seen that video, and it was definitely pretty informative, so I'm glad I watched it. I'll put a link to it in the description so you can watch that too.
But he said that he started watching a streamer by the name of Destiny. Now, Destiny is a popular streamer here on Twitch where he talks about politics. A lot of the times he's very brash and in your face. And he talked about this video that I will show you guys right here, which is debating JonTron. And so this is a debate where Destiny debates the popular YouTuber JonTron about like immigration and stuff. And I remember watching that video and thinking, man, these arguments that JonTron was using, hearing someone actually have good counterpoints to it, really, like, it made me think, oh, okay, it's not just feelings on the left, facts on the right. It's much more, there's much more gray area in between.
That's a video that I haven't seen, but I assume that it's informative too.
Now, it was kind of a perfect storm for me. So that ended up happening, and at the same time, 2020 happened, okay? And so what I mean by that is, you know, the George Floyd incidents, and I remember being at church and talking to people about, you know, Black Lives Matter, and I made some posts about it, and like trying to explain white privilege to people. And I used to be the person that was like, white privilege, are you talking, what are you, crazy? I've had such a hard life, and I'm white, and it doesn't, like, just because I'm white doesn't mean my life is super easy or anything like that. But then understand that it's like, yo, when someone says white privilege, this is my understanding, they're not saying that you haven't had a hard life or anything like that. It's your life hasn't been extra hard, basically, because you are white. and understanding that, and just like having so many people just like refuse to understand the underlying meaning of a lot of this stuff. I just remember thinking, man, like this, it seems like the right that's all about facts and stuff has a lot, like they're not listening to what the underlying message of this movement might be, right?
So I have a couple of thoughts on that. The first one is that what frustrates me about the term white privilege is that the term privilege suggests that there's a simple way to resolve the inequality, because most of the time privilege has been used historically. It's either referred to an official privilege given to someone legally, or it's referred to money. And in either way, there's a very simple, clear cut way to just equalize everything. But that's not what's going on with what's termed white privilege. White privilege is very much about things that cannot just be easily equalized. And so, because of that, I don't like that the term privilege is used for that. I feel like a better term would be white advantage. And I think that a lot of the problem and a lot of the reason conservatives don't agree that there is white privilege is because they're thinking of privilege in terms of something that is official and the usual meaning of the word privilege. And when you look at it that way, it is very, very frustrating to hear people throw around the term white privilege all the time, because you're just like, okay, we have worked really hard. This country has worked really hard to get the laws to be equal, and now you're still saying that there's white privilege. That's just very frustrating.
And then with everything with this pandemic going on, and then just the mounting pressures and the mounting just insanity of the 2020 BLM protests, and me even saying that, like, yo, I agree that Black Lives do matter, and just being absolutely attacked for it, like being attacked, like people saying that I'm a soy boy. And I just remember thinking, like, I can't believe how upset people are by me just saying, hey, black people deserve things. I just remember that really had kind of, for lack of a better term, pushed me further to the left.
And see, that's interesting to me because when I listen to YouTubers that are on the right, one of the things that gets brought up is how the left sort of pushed them to the right because they weren't far enough to the left, and so they would get attacked, and they would get pushed farther to the right because of that. And I kind of feel like this is an example of the opposite. And to me, it just shows that um, orthodoxy is strong in both sides of the political spectrum. And if people don't like what you're thinking or what you're doing, they'll attack you whatever side you're on. And so, because of that, I think it's important not to move to the right or the left just because some people on the right or the left are attacking you. I think it's important to step back and say, what do I really believe, independently of what other people think of what I believe?
Now if you are a trans man, a trans woman, if you are non-binary, I just like, yo, I support anyone for like what they want to do. I don't think that, non-binary people are trying to ruin America and trying to ruin the world. I don't believe that trans people are trying to ruin America or ruin the world. I think that people are very complex, and they make decisions based on what they want to do. And for me, it's not my job to, judge them or tell them they're not allowed to do certain things because of whatever reason.
So I think it's interesting that in his Instagram post at the beginning of the video, he talked about how he thought that people who were trans all had mental health issues. But then in his comment on what he believes now, he talked about how he doesn't believe that trans people are trying to destroy America or the world, and or non-binary people are. And the implication there is that he sort of thought that way before. So that kind of confuses me, because in my mind, if you think somebody has mental health issues and that's why they're trans, that's a completely separate thing from somebody wanting to tear other people down. I think that you can believe that somebody has mental health issues without believing that they're intentionally trying to mess things up for other people. And I don't think I ever thought that trans people were trying to mess things up for other people. I think I very much saw it as a personal thing, even when I didn't agree with it. Now I think about it differently than I did in the past, and part of that is because I no longer see people as um, d- divinely created beings. And so, because of that, I no longer see people not identifying with the gender that corresponds to their biological sex as being some rejection of what God has planned for them. I see it as a difference in who they identify as and how they feel inside, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. And that's how I feel about that. I do think it's a very difficult thing because I think it causes people to go through a lot of frustration and struggle. And I think, if people choose to transition, that's not an easy thing to do. But I don't think that there's anything wrong per se with it. And that is my updated thoughts on transgenderism and also being non binary. So, those are my thoughts on Obese to Beast video. I think that he and I are similar in some ways and different in others, but I think that I have also moved farther to the left on social issues since I stopped being religious. And so, because of that, I think I can relate to some of what he's saying. And I thought it was interesting to see someone else's perspective on these issues. So, hopefully, you liked this video. If you did, please let me know by actually liking it and leave a comment. And thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.